And I can't hide. These growing pains are keeping me up at night.
The information that we share today is from our own personal experiences and does not constitute medical advice. We do not endorse any products or services. Any said products or services mentioned on this podcast may not be suitable for you or your condition. Please consult with your physician if you have medical questions as it may pertain to your condition.
Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's episode on Take a Paycheck. I'm so excited to welcome our guest, Carrie. Carrie is a huge advocate for keeping a positive mindset because our mental health is as important as our physical health.
So good to be on this. I'm excited to get this, rolling.
So can you start off by introducing yourself? I know I gave like a pretty long introduction, but like a brief one, and as well as your condition.
My name is Carrie Zamudio. I have rheumatoid arthritis. I got rheumatoid arthritis when I was about 24, but I wasn't actually officially diagnosed with it till I was 26.
What sort of symptoms did you experience at that age?
My finger was the one that started showing me that, there was something going on with me. So my index finger on my right hand started to swell. So as you guys can actually see, it's still pretty much, it's not like your regular finger because I went so long without being treated. The erosion kind of just stayed there. So I experienced overswelling on my joints, on my feet, severe stiffness, nausea. And I got to say, those are probably the main ones. Yeah.
Wow, that's a handful and a lot to handle. So you have rheumatoid arthritis. I just want to know kind of like what were some of the challenges that you had during, I guess, your diagnosis period, but also like during your time now where you live with the disease, like what are some challenges that you experience on a day-to-day basis?
Well, it was mostly challenging when I wasn't being treated. And I wasn't being treated because during that time, that's when the whole COVID pandemic was actually starting. And I was actually in New York. So we were in serious lockdown. So I wasn't able to schedule an appointment with a specialist, a rheumatologist. Because of just the wait time because of the pandemic. So I kind of had to just sit and wait till I was able to see one or till they were able to see me. But I experienced a lot of pain and especially stiffness. I was the worst in the mornings. To the point where I would I'd get up, I'm trying to start my day, but I was just so stiff that I would try to do like some yoga to unstiff myself, but it wasn't helping enough. So I was starting to do, strange things to try and relieve the stiffness in my body. I would grab a bucket of hot water and I would put salt in it and dip my feet in it because they were so swollen. So I was hoping that would help them, go back to normal and stuff like that. So I was trying my best to do home remedies, but it was definitely a struggle in the beginning with the symptoms. Yeah.
Do you think that, did any of those home remedies work, or like were any of them like, they all failed? Like how did that experience go?
Okay, so the home remedies, they helped. Those home remedies also involved me changing my diet completely. Because I noticed that I would eat certain foods like your regular milk. And I noticed that the next day I had like really bad flaring. When I would kind of just notice that the days I didn't eat milk or drink milk, it wasn't as bad. But I changed my diet. So they helped, but to a certain extent. It didn't really relieve it. It was still there, but it helped a little bit.
So what other, I guess, like lifestyle changes have you made or incorporated in your daily life to really relieve the pain aside from just like, eliminating milk? What else do you do?
So besides changing my diets, because I tried reading books and to try and inform myself, about like what certain foods do to your body and whatnot. So I really informed myself. I did a lot of research on that and I started testing it out. So I definitely changed my diet. I also started working out, which was lifting heavy weights, which was an extreme struggle in the beginning because of how swollen my feet would be, and I'm not being treated, and the
Yeah.
deformity of my joints. So I was pushing through it because it would make me feel good because of how stiff I would be. That when I would work my body out, it would give me a sense of relief.
That makes sense. I think sometimes, like, even when I move around, like, yes, I'm so lazy to even get to the point where I want to move. But when I do move, like, I feel like, like my feet feel so much better. And I can definitely vouch for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you found out about your arthritis, what was kind of your first reaction?
Honestly, I was devastated. I was so sad. I was in a dark place. Couldn't believe that I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis because when I was first told about it, I was like, but how could this, possibly happen to me? You're in denial.
Yeah.
You're kind of in denial at first. You're like, there's no way. And my biggest thing was trying to find the solution. And I was like, okay, so how do you cure it? And they were like, well, there's actually no cure, but there's treatments for it. And I was like, wait, what? So you're telling me I'm going to be sick forever? So I was pretty devastated, and telling my family and stuff. They didn't know what it was either. So they were pretty sad for me too. So it was a pretty dark time for me.
And what about like your friends and the people around you? How did you tell them about your condition and what was their like reaction?
Well, as far as my friends, I was honestly very embarrassed to tell them because I was still very unsure about, rheumatoid arthritis and what exactly it was. So when I would, when I would tell people, they would kind of look at me like, isn't that, an old people thing? So I was like, yeah, but some people sometimes tend to get it, when they're younger, unfortunately. So it was hard at first just because I was a bit embarrassed by it, but my friends were pretty understanding and they just tried to support me through it. And yeah, it wasn't as bad as I thought, but they were very supportive.
That's so good. I think it's so important to have supportive people around you. And I think that makes you like, I mean, get out of that dark place that you would have been because, yeah, they may not understand, but they're still like, there for you. And I was just really curious on, so you talked really briefly on like kind of bone deformity and like erosions. How did you kind of find out that it happened? Did you get any like x-rays or what was your reaction to knowing that you have erosions?
When my finger first started swelling and it was, purple, blue, and, these other colors that fingers aren't supposed to be, I honestly, I thought my finger had broken. So I was like, oh, it's a broken finger. People don't really do anything for broken fingers. They just put a cast on it and it heals on its own. So I was like, I'll put a cast on it myself, right? So my family, they would start seeing my finger too. They would say, hey, that finger looks huge. It looks so unregular and unnormal. You should check that out. And I was like, well, I guess, it does hurt a lot. And, I put a cast on it and it hasn't quite been helping. If anything, the cast actually made it worse because it was making it more stiff, because I wasn't able to bend it. So it was making it worse. I decided to go to the ER because I had already had my finger like that for a while and it wasn't healing with the cast. Yeah, the ER told me, well, your finger's not broken. They did x-rays. They were like, we're going to have to send you might have to go to a clinic. So, I went to another clinic. They did more x-rays and they were like, yeah, your finger doesn't look like it's broken. So that's when they finally sent me to a rheumatologist. They're the ones who were like, yeah, it looks like rheumatoid arthritis, but we're going to send you over to a lab to do some blood work to see if that's exactly what it is. So I did my blood work, and then, yeah, that's when they pretty much told me, yes, it is rheumatoid arthritis, unfortunately, but due to the deformity, we can help it go back down, but there's no way that it could ever be back to normal unless I was to get surgeries, if I chose that.
And what are your thoughts on surgeries and getting them?
Honestly, I'm not against it. I'm not gonna lie. I am all for it because, sometimes it is a little embarrassing, when you're doing stuff with your hands and your finger looks a little off. So I have considered to do the surgeries, but probably later in life.
Yeah. I know same here, like I also have erosions. You can't really see it. Damage in my wrist, and like obviously you can't really see it. It looks normal. But it's like
Yeah.
internal also in my feet, but like no one would know unless they like did an X-ray MRI. So I'm kind of like safe in that part. I do have erosions on my fingers, and most of them are okay actually. And I wanted to ask you, I'm like curious to know, what medications have you been on and what medications are you on now?
I started on prednisone, which is a steroid. Started me on that for 2 weeks before the actual treatment, which definitely helped a lot, especially with the stiffness. After the 2 weeks, that's when they put me on Enbrel, which is honestly the only one I have actually tried. I haven't tried any other medications besides the Enbrel medication, which is the shot that you give yourself every week. And I haven't had any issues with it. It's helped me. It definitely gave me a lot of relief. So I decided to stick with that one.
Wow, that's so good. So you're about 6 months pregnant now, but you're on Enbrel. Have you talked to your rheumatologist about this? Like, is there anything that could potentially happen because of you're on this medication?
Okay, so as far as that, I was on Enbrel the first 5 months of my pregnancy. When I finally saw my rheumatologist not that long ago, actually, he told me that usually when a woman is pregnant and she has rheumatoid arthritis, her arthritis goes into remission, which means that it basically goes away.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So when you're pregnant, most women who have rheumatoid arthritis and are pregnant, they their rheumatoid arthritis just goes into remission. So your baby's actually healing you as you're pregnant with rheumatoid arthritis.
Are you kidding?
No, I thought that was crazy too.
I'm like, can I get pregnant? I'm kidding. I'm like 18. But what?
I thought the same thing. I was like, are you serious? That's one, that's beautiful because wow, your baby is healing you while they are inside of you. And I was like, God, so that means that I don't have to be on my medication, or what are you saying? And they were like, yeah, you could stop it now, actually. If anything, I think you've been on your medication for a little bit longer than most women who are pregnant with rheumatoid arthritis have. So I was like, okay. But before I actually get off this Enbrel, I would love to, get some blood work done here with you guys, if that's okay, to make sure that my blood work is showing that everything is going okay before I get off of it. So it took a bit of nudging, just because, with your doctors, no matter what, they'll tell you one thing, but it's different for everyone, and you want to make sure you get what you need. You know what I mean? So I was like, I would love to make sure that my blood work is showing, that it's okay and that I'm okay to get off of this Enbrel for the rest of the pregnancy. And my results came back that they were okay. And I haven't been on Enbrel for about a month now. And I honestly haven't been having any flares. I haven't been experiencing severe stiffness. I haven't really been in pain, like I was when I was off of treatment, before I was treated. Yeah.
I'm just like shocked a little because like what? That's very interesting. Oh
It's
my.
insane. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so glad that, your baby's internally like healing you, but also like it's really good that you're not feeling any symptoms or anything. Because sometimes I've heard like, I don't know, I think I've heard sometimes that when you have like arthritis and you're pregnant, like you get more flares sometimes. Like, I don't know, I just feel like it depends like case by case. Also, depending on like what type of arthritis you have, probably.
The first months of the pregnancy, yes, they were horrible. I was throwing up nonstop. I was experiencing what every woman experiences the first few months of pregnancy, but times three because of my rheumatoid arthritis. So, the baby's kind of growing inside of you, or they're kind of fixing up their home, So it's going to be hard on your body at first. So it was awful. I was afraid to eat because I would throw everything up. But once I got to the fourth month, that's when I started to feel better. And I think if any woman was to, who has arthritis, to consider getting pregnant, I still think it's important for them to reach out to the doctor first before actually getting pregnant. But depending on the medication you're on. See, my medication, Enbrel, they say it's okay for you to actually be on that medication while pregnant, but I know that there's other medications that are for arthritis that are really bad for the baby.
Yeah,
So,
I've heard of that as well.
mhm.
So did you consider any factors before getting pregnant?
Yeah, I was pretty scared, but once I saw that most women's arthritis tends to go into remission while they're pregnant, I wasn't as afraid. So, I'm 27 now. So I was like, this is the age I wanted to have my baby. So I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to let my arthritis hold me back. So, I went ahead and I'm pregnant now. But I am afraid for the afterbirth. They do say that you can get extreme flare-ups and that it could be pretty hard for the mother to care for her baby the first few months because she could experience, severe flaring. So I'm afraid for that. But as long as you and your partner kind of discuss all of that, and as long as they support you and they understand what you have and what could happen, I think it's not a bad idea at all.
Yeah, you're right. I feel like communication is really important. I mean, I have still a long way to go. Communication is what helped you and made you even less scared to kind of because you trust someone and you're able to like do what you gotta do. So how do you plan on managing your arthritis post-pregnancy? Like, have you done research on this?
So the thing is, because we have arthritis, it's kind of, it could go either good or it could go bad, and I feel like I've kind of talked to myself and I said I think I'm better if I'm prepared for both. So I figured that instead of going back to work like a woman normally would after a while, I think I'm just going to not go to work for like a month or two just to make sure that I'm fully uh, healed and that my body is back to how it needs to be. And just depending on how it goes, I'm just gonna make sure that I take the time that I need, get the help that I need, talk to my rheumatologist, see what the best options are for me to get back to how I was, back on track to just living my regular life. So it's definitely going to take a lot of communication, that's for sure.
I
Yeah.
think like in general, just like having this disease is like it's so important to constantly communicate and like everything you do is based on communication. Like going to the doctor, you gotta communicate how you feel and everything. So
No,
all right.
absolutely.
So let's dive into some of your interests. You're very passionate about mental health and well-being. I really want to know, why is this so important to you?
So when it comes to your mental states, I think it's really important because I feel like it's what kind of holds us together and keeps us sane. Us having so much going on and just sometimes it just feels like the world is moving and we're just kind of still, and it gets frustrating, and you don't want to lose yourself. You want to make sure that you're good within, that you feel peace with yourself, that you embrace your life, your situation, and I think it's just so important because it's what keeps us sane. And as far as, our well-being, I think it's important for us to, take care of our bodies too. Just because we're on a certain medication, it doesn't mean that we should just stop and ruin our diets, because I think we have these diseases because it's our body telling us, hey, maybe we should eat certain, things, maybe cut this out because it's harmful to your body. You know what I mean? And it's important to have to be in a good emotional state when you're going through all that. So it's something I'm really passionate about. Definitely.
So how do you specifically practice self-care?
So I read a lot of books because I figured it was the best way to learn about what it is that I have. So I read a lot of nutrition books. I read a lot of books in regards to, mindfulness, how to stay in control of your emotions, to not overwhelm yourself. There's also even certain smoothies that help your immune system, boost your immune system. It's just things that could help you in the long run. So I just did a bunch of research on a lot of stuff, and that's how I realized I became really passionate about it, and I just decided to keep going forward with it. And I decided to bring it on social media and see maybe if what's helped me, if maybe that could help others too.
It's good that you kind of bring that up because I think mindfulness is so important. And it's so hard sometimes to, be positive all the time with all the things that are happening in your life. And so it's really important to practice that. And I would love you to share, if you share a time in which you were at your lowest and how you changed your mindset because of this experience?
So I would probably have to say it was one night. This was before I was being I wasn't treated yet. I was asleep, and my husband kind of nudged my foot for some reason. I mean, I guess I was having a severe flare that it was just so painful. It literally brought me to tears, and I was on the floor crying like a baby because it really hurt so bad. It was unexplainable pain, honestly. I was just kind of sitting there like feeling depressed and like feeling like my world was over, and I was just feeling so overwhelmed. I was feeling so many emotions at the time that I started to feel really helpless, because I was struggling to do things by myself, like just even brushing my teeth or zipping my zipper on my jeans or putting my shirt over my head because it would nudge my finger. And it's just, I couldn't wear heels anymore either. And I used to love wearing heels, but I noticed that when I would take off my heels, my toes, my foot was so stiff, and I was like, oh God, what happened to my foot? Did somebody step on me? No, it was the arthritis. So I guess I kind of, in my mind, I kind of felt like a freak to everyone else because I wasn't like everyone else. I felt like I was very sensitive and very weak. So I was like crying that night when my husband nudged my foot, and I was like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I don't want to feel helpless. I don't want to feel like I have to rely on somebody to do things for me. I don't want to have to feel like I'm not worthy. So that's what encouraged me to just read books to inform myself about things that could potentially help me or make me feel happy again and worthy.
With life experiences and things you go through, which is like a perfect example you brought up. I mean, it's not the best thing to go through that, but you learn. And especially for me, like I know you mentioned heels, and that's really interesting because this summer I never wear heels, and this summer, they're doing like this photo shoot that I was invited to. I decide to wear heels. My feet get blisters in like 3 seconds. And like it hurts so bad, it feels so swollen. And like my friend was there and he was really nice. Like it was literally bleeding and disgusting. He like put band-aids on it, but I didn't expect that to happen. And I feel like it happened so quickly. Our feet are so sensitive. You would just think, oh yeah, I'm wearing heels. Everyone else wears heels. Like what's the problem, You get like really swollen feet plus blisters, so many. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it is. And even now, after being treated, I haven't been able to get back on heels. I think the other day I bought myself some Steve Madden shoes just because I was like, I want to get back to, how I used to dress, and I love the heels. And it was the same pair that I had before I had arthritis, and I couldn't wear them anymore. I was like, were they really this high? Oh my God, they're so uncomfortable. I couldn't be in the shoes anymore. I was like, this is just not gonna work. And I don't wear heels anymore, unfortunately, because our feet are so sensitive to the way that they're standing. It just doesn't work for arthritis on our feet. So
Someone should make like trendy heels that people with arthritis are able to wear that are like comfortable, but like they look nice. I've seen a lot of shoes that like don't look the best.
I wish, but I think that's why I got really comfortable with wearing tennis shoes. So my go-to shoe would now be a tennis shoe. They're comfy, or the foamy shoes or sandals. So it's kind of my go-to now.
That's good. I think you just like adapt over the years, especially for me. Like I had so many instances about shoes. Like I had people make fun of my shoes because I found them very comfortable, but they were not like the most beautiful looking shoes. But luckily now I can wear like shoes that are comfortable, but also, there are people my age wear the same type of shoes as me. So like they were like Air Forces, like I can wear those shoes, the Nike shoes, and I feel so much better. But before, when I couldn't do that, it was really hard and scary to kind of like, go out to school and be wearing shoes that people might make comments about. How have you grown as a person since being diagnosed?
So I feel like I was actually thinking about that the other day when I turned 27. And I was thinking about my journey and all, and I've grown a lot. I honestly, I kind of had to sit there and just kind of realize that this is who I am now, because I don't recognize myself. With having rheumatoid arthritis, at least in the ways that I feel like I've grown would be in, self-love. I feel like I've definitely been able to love myself a lot more than I used to. And that just includes, being able to take care of my body, my health, my mental state. So I feel like it kind of almost feels like I just grew up in a way. I had to take care of myself at this point. Nobody's going to do it for you. You kind of, you're a bit different than everyone else, I would tell myself. So you got to give yourself more attention than, regular people would kind of give themselves. So I used to smoke cigarettes too, actually, before I had arthritis. And I would drink, I liked the whole party life and whatnot. And, once I realized I had arthritis, I was like, is this bad for people with arthritis? And they were like, well, yeah, it doesn't help it. So I just kind of decided to make a lot of changes. And I feel like that's just, I had to give myself a lot of self-love, and it just kind of made me mature quicker and learn how to put myself first.
Thank you for sharing that. It's hard to give things up, is what I'd say. Like it's hard because you're so used to your routine, and now you have this like shocking diagnosis that causes like external stress and internal stress, and it's hard to give things up. And I'm glad that you're so resilient and strong, and to be able to do something like that is really, really inspiring and motivational to many people. So I just want to wrap things up with one last question. What personal goals do you have for the future?
My main goal is to be able to inspire as many people as I can. So I want to be able to grow my social media. I want to be able to connect with more people like us. I want to be able to let them know that they're not alone, because I felt alone before I began that, which is why I began my page, because I wanted others to feel like they're not on this journey alone. So I want to be able to help others, which I'm still learning how to do. I wasn't very tech before. So, and still I'm not, but you know what? I'm learning along the way. So I just want to be able to inspire a lot more people. They don't have to fight this by themselves.
Especially social media, and there's
Yeah.
so much to it. I especially like, the chronic illness community, people with rheumatic diseases, like I found you on social media, and
Yeah.
just to connect with other people that have the same kind of disease as you is really empowering. And also you're able to make so many things. You can collaborate together and then share your messages and connect with each other, and it just shows how strong people are when they live with chronic illnesses. So yeah, thank you for sharing. Thank you so much for coming on to Take a Paycheck today. I really had a great conversation with you, and we kind of delved into different topics and topics that I don't really talk about, but mental health, pregnancy, personal growth is so important. I'm so glad that we were able to touch upon those. So everyone, like, comment, subscribe. Check out Carrie's new Instagram page that's currently growing. That's where I saw Carrie and I was like, I need to get her on this podcast. So definitely check out Carrie's Instagram.
Bye, guys.
I can't